Today's sponsor is Coastal Crypto. Coastal Crypto can be found at coastalcryptomining.com via the affiliate link down in the description below. They don't want to take up a lot of your time, and neither do I, because I want to get into the video. They are here to help miners find parts. If you're looking for ASICs or even GPUs or any other parts, be sure to check them out. Use promo code SOAT at checkout for 5% off any purchase on the website. Because this one's kind of fun. If you guys weren't aware, this is just a fun article to go over for you guys. If you're not aware, basically Craig Wright is kind of like in the middle of a defamation suit because essentially someone said, of course, he is not Satoshi Nakamoto. He claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, for proof, what they are requesting is that he shares Satoshi's private keys, but they're saying that Satoshi's private keys, wouldn't be enough, so they aren't going to provide them, which is hilarious, just as in general. I decided, it was always nice to have something to laugh at the end of the day here. So lawyers for Craig Wright, the Australian computer scientist best known for claiming to be the inventor of Bitcoin, said he will not provide any new cryptographic proof that he is Satoshi Nakamoto during his trial against Bitcoiner Hodlonaut. The trial kicked off here on Monday. The Norwegian trial is one of the two simultaneous lawsuits centered around a series of tweets from March 2019 in which Hodlonaut expressed a doubt about Wright's claims to be Satoshi and called him a fraud and a scammer. Hodlonaut, known in real life as Magnus Granath, initiated the lawsuit in Norway to get a judge to rule that his tweets were protected by the constitutional right to freedom of speech and prevent Wright's defamation suit filed in the UK from moving forward. During his opening statements on Tuesday, Wright's lead attorney, Halvor Manshuas, something like that, told the court that establishing Wright's ownership of Satoshi's private keys, a move many of Wright's doubters say would settle the years-long argument over his claims, isn't enough. However, I think that is exactly enough. I mean, okay, we could say it's not enough because detractors could say that he somehow stole or found the Satoshi Nakamoto's private keys. But if you want the most amount of proof, I think that showing that you actually hold the private keys would be the absolute most amount of proof that you could currently have to prove that you're Satoshi Nakamoto. In my humble opinion, I'd like to hear what you guys think in the comment section in the chat. But if it's like, hey, man, prove that you're Satoshi by showing us that you have the private keys to the Satoshi's wallets, it would be like, if he showed me that, I'd be like, oh, you know what? You're Satoshi. All right. I believe you now. And then if you're like, nah, that's not proof enough, let me give you some other BS proof, which we're about to get into here. I'd be like, no, bro, you're just making shit up, dude. Craig Wright is of the perception that to sign with a private key, one block or another, is not conclusive evidence of whether or not he is Satoshi or not. There we go. Sorry. Manshu has told the court, it's never one thing or the other is sufficient. You need several elements. You need the whole package. Sure. You need the whole pack. Give us the whole package, including that, my friend, I think is the point. So he also read numerous excerpts from Andrew O'Hagan's 26 article, The Satoshi Affair, to show that in addition to not feeling like cryptographic evidence would be enough to silence his critics, Wright also struggled emotionally with the burden of proving his identity as Satoshi. Using passages from the Satoshi Affair, Manshuas argued that Wright has difficulty trusting people and suffered extreme emotional pain and exhaustion after a private signing session intended to prove his ownership of Satoshi's private keys with Bitcoin developer Gavin Anderson in 2016 that caused him to break down in tears. Instead of cryptographic proof, Manshuas attempted to convince the court of his client's identity as Satoshi with other pieces of evidence, including a personal history allegedly in line with the creation of Bitcoin. Manshuas's opening statement also leaned heavily on Anderson's 2016 assertions that he believed Wright to be Satoshi following the private signing session. What Mantuis glossed over, however, is that Anderson later retracted his support for Wright when Anderson was deposed for Wright's trial against the estate of his former friend Dave Kleeman. He testified that he had been bamboozled by Wright and when used gobbledygook proof to demonstrate his possession of Satoshi's private keys. The support of former Bitcoin Foundation director John Mantonis, who wrote a blog post called How I Met Satoshi in 2016 after a private proof session with Wright, also featured heavily in Wright's legal team's opening statements. Convincing the likes of Mantonis and Anderson, Mantuis argued, the latter of which he described as a very critical person in the beginning, extremely critical, was proof enough of Wright's claim to be Satoshi. In addition to the proof, Wright offered privately. Mantuis detailed Wright's childhood in Australia, during which he spent time with his grandfather, Captain Ronald Linham, during learning to code and operate a ham radio in the family ham shack. Mantuis told the court about Wright's long-standing obsession with Japanese culture, confirmed by a quote from Wright's mother in the Satoshi affair that explained his choice of pseudonym. Satoshi, Mantuis said, means ash in Japanese, and Wright chose it because he wanted Bitcoin to take down the legacy financial system and rise like a phoenix from its ashes. It had added the benefit, according to Mantuis, of being the Japanese language name of Pokemon character Ash Ketchum. Note, CoinDesk attempted to verify this claim and found that Satoshi has several meanings depending on the kanji used, so none of which translate to Ash. Furthermore, the Japanese name for Ash Ketchum is based on Pokemon creator Satoshi Tajiri's name, according to the gaming website CBR. The spelling he uses for Satoshi translates to knowledge or wisdom. Wright's academic achievements and military career, both of which appear to have been exaggerated. For example, Australian public military records seem to indicate that Wright was discharged by the Royal Australian Air Force only a year after being accepted into a 9-year officer program, were also presented to the court as evidence that Wright had the skills, knowledge, and experience required to create Bitcoin. I mean, there are a ton of kids that learn to program with, various family members. It's hard to use that as proof that you were the creator of Bitcoin, in my humble opinion, right? So during their opening statements on Monday, Hodlonaut's attorney told the court they'd commissioned multinational auditing firm KPMG to authenticate Wright's evidence submitted in this case. The report is expected to show that many documents submitted by Wright are either manipulated or unverifiable, and will be discussed when a KPMG representative testifies on Friday. Though the contents of the 73 exhibit report have not yet been made public, Wright's attorneys attempted to preemptively debunk it during the statements on Tuesday, telling the court that there are reasons for documents to appear manipulated, such as being opened in 2 different versions of Microsoft Word that don't necessarily point to intentional manipulation. The current trial in Norway is not the first time Wright's alleged history of submitting false evidence has influenced court proceedings. In the Kleeman versus Wright trial held in November, lawyers for the plaintiff called witnesses who testified about Wright's business dealings, suspected forged signatures and backdated documents. They also referenced Wright's legal issues with the Australian Tax Office, who concluded after a lengthy investigation that Wright had backdated and forged contracts provided during an audit and was pretending to be Satoshi to get around his tax issues. Wright, for his part, claimed that the ATO was the victim of a hack that resulted in funky documents. In Wright's libel suit against British broadcaster Peter McCormick, a UK judge ruled that Wright had advanced a deliberately false case and put forward false evidence and awarded him a single British pound in damages. Though his lawyers, Wright told CoinDesk, he intends to appeal the adverse findings because his evidence was misunderstood. Another key theme of Mansuis's opening statement on Tuesday was the hashtag Hodlonaut used in his March 2019 tweets. Craig Wright is a fraud. By using a hashtag, Mansuis argued, Hodlonaut amplified his criticisms of Wright by creating a repository for similar tweets using the same hashtag. Quote, his statements directly encourages other people to follow up the attack against Craig Wright with the same language, the same form, Mansuis said. We are going to see that encouraged a rapid and toxic attack against Craig Wright. You know what I always regret? Like personally, just in general, not regret, but sort of definitely kind of get a little like, maybe this wasn't a good idea. It's becoming an influencer or like somebody that is in the public eye, right? Like, and I think that somebody that would be along the lines of who would be Satoshi Nakamoto would be along the lines of a traditional, maybe like the traditional thought of, if you had it's better to be rich than famous. If you had to pick one, being rich or famous, it'd be better to just be rich and not famous, right? Like this is a common thought process of a lot of people that make money and have money. And like the reasoning is all this, right? Like Craig Wright, like in general, like it doesn't fall along the lines of somebody that I think would be Satoshi, because I don't think Satoshi would want all of this attention in the first place, right? And like, that is really where I kind of go, like, from my personal perspective, I don't think that he is a Satoshi, right? It'd be better to like, just be rich and not be like, be under all this public scrutiny, right? He also said that the online criticism of Wright spilled over into other social media platforms, including a Telegram group called Bitcoin Plebs that encouraged its approximately 400 members to organize a Bitcoin Plebs attack on some shitcoin scammers. Dang, we have more members in our Discord than they're upset about in this Telegram. and I'm pretty sure that we've talked about Craig Wright before, but you know, it's okay. We self-host our chat application because we're not a dummy that uses public Telegram groups. You guys are smart. Mansuis admitted that there is no evidence that Hodlonaut was involved in this Telegram group, but told the court, quote, could be that Hodlonaut has nothing to do with these people except they see the tweet and react. But still, we believe that it's as likely or more likely that Hodlonaut himself is more involved than that he's in one of these groups and that he's taking the initiative here. Mansuis went on to say that the BSV extinction event, referring to the massive delisting of Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, the fork of Bitcoin created by Wright, the member of the Bitcoin Plebs, were angling for was a result, direct or indirect, of Hodlonaut's criticism. The exchanges that delisted BSV, however, including Binance and Kraken, stated they did so because of Wright's behavior, including doxing and suing Hodlonaut and others. And that is like, at the end of the day, like if you're going to be so upset at somebody that you're going to dox them, that's a very serious thing to do. And I'm always against doxing. Obviously, as a YouTuber, I'm not a fan of doxing, and I think that you should be held accountable for doxing others. And look, if Binance and Kraken are going to go ahead and pull BSV because of Wright's behavior, you know, if you're going to tie yourself to a project that closely, first of all, you know, I'm not a big fan, but second of all, yeah, that project will suffer consequences of your actions, right? That is just how it goes. At the end of the day, that's how it goes. Witness testimony begins. With opening statements concluded, witness testimony will begin on Wednesday. Wright and Hodlonaut are both expected to testify. On Thursday and Friday, the court will hear testimony from additional witnesses. Wright's cousin, Max Linham, a so far unnamed expert from KPMG who will go over the findings of the report. Dr. Ami Klin, an autism expert who diagnosed Wright with autism spectrum disorder and testified on his behalf at the Kleeman versus Wright trial last year. And Stephen Matthews, an associate of Wright's. Anderson and Matonis are not expected to testify. Now, I want to say this in relation to autism. That is really interesting. You should never utilize your autism to defend yourself in public court. I do not think. I get it, but like that's already telling me you're going down the wrong path. In addition to that, being autistic doesn't give you the right to lie. Now, I don't know that he's lying. I can't prove that he's lying. But I am curious what the perception is. So let's get the perception here. Do you think, is Craig Wright Satoshi? Thanks for checking out this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. You can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.